There's never been an isometric action RPG quite so expansive or adventurous as Lost Ark. This stylish, free-to-play game took South Korea by storm in 2019 and is now setting records on Steam in the West. It's not hard to see why. There's a surprising degree of depth to each of its sprawling systems and exciting boss fights, and with the exception of some dull enemy encounters and a generic story, most of it is enjoyable to play through solo or with friends. Especially once you get your very own ship. Yes, you get a ship. And set sail to pave your own path through its mysterious world. Lost Ark is full of things to find and do. Once you finish Lost Ark's tutorial with less information than you probably need, you enter the online world where you're propelled through a 10-hour linear series of main story quests. And it's rare that other players running around get in your way. In fact, the only content that absolutely requires you to team up doesn't arrive until after level 50, and that's largely part of Lost Ark's open-ended, albeit grindy, endgame, where you're free to pick and choose what you want to do. The story itself boils down to the now overdone humans and angels team up to fight demons and save the world trope. It clearly suffers from some pretty ham-fisted character writing, and its downright cringeworthy voice acting sounds like the performers have no idea what's supposed to be going on around them.
I can feel the power of the Master.
Descend upon us.
This makes for an awkward tone and pacing most of the time, and it's especially annoying when you're first starting out.
That's one popular hunk of rock.
Emotional moments struggle to land at all, but that shortcoming is compensated for by how well scripted and downright creative these cinematic action sequences can be. Some are absolutely breathtaking, such as the Battle of the Glorious Wall or your first visit to Trixion, and downright exquisite camera work captures the sheer scale of the chaos unfolding around you. There's a slickness to the flow of Lost Ark's combat that feels more in line with Diablo 3 than with stiffer games like Diablo 2 or Grim Dawn. You're given the freedom to mix and match the skills on your hotbar to your heart's content, with no restrictive rules requiring specific skill types. It's always nice to be able to swap out or re-specialize your skills on the fly, and if you'd like to make your fighting style even more dynamic, you can always store grenades and other useful items on your hotbar to supplement your skill loadout even more. You'll generally need to fight many enemies at once, and some of your skills require you to hold down their assigned key in order to power them up or keep them rolling in a combo, which usually feels good to do since those moves often have the most explosive effects. It's also neat that you can use a limited roll dodge ability to get out of harm's way every few seconds, similar to Diablo 3 on consoles, and some battles absolutely require you to make good use of that ability. Each of the 5 base classes and their handful of subclasses brings something distinctive to the table that defines their playstyle. For example, the Assassin can choose to subclass as the extremely stylish demonic Shadow Hunter, which stands out as one of the coolest melee classes available. It's deeply satisfying to activate her demonic form by consuming enough blood, and then ripping and tearing through anything that gets in your way. Another favorite is the Striker, who slowly builds up a resource that he can unleash in powerful martial arts-inspired flourishes. Being able to lift entire groups of enemies into the air at once like this is just one of his excellent crowd control abilities. Meanwhile, you have ranged classes like the Gunslinger, who can fire a barrage of bullets, the Sorceress, who can rain destruction upon her foes but has little armor and health, and plenty more. The only failing here is that there's no real reason for any of these classes to be gender-locked. Why can't you make a male bard or a female paladin? That said, it is quite cool that there is an account-wide roster level that means starting a new class doesn't feel like going all the way back to square one. As long as you remember to claim it, you can skip the more drawn-out parts of leveling up an alt. However, fights do begin to stagnate once you've bashed your way through swarms of enemies for a while, since you can't scale the difficulty manually. Unless you're specifically fighting a boss with unique mechanics, such as jogging, it eventually becomes hard to feel like you're fighting anything other than exploding sacks of gore. PvP can be a nice change of pace once it opens up at level 26. These short skirmishes often come in the form of team deathmatch, and team elimination, with up to 5 other players, all of which are pretty fun to play. After that first 10 hours, though, everything changes when you unlock your first ship and head out to the open seas. From this point on, you're free to set sail and can go in basically any direction you'd like, and no matter what course you set, you'll probably find something unexpected and cool. You can discover unique and interesting places, such as a remote library filled with talking books, or a secret village hidden underfoot. Each of the 13 substantial continents has its own theme, culture, and environment, and the impressive variety works well in Lost Ark's favor. More importantly, the story actually uses these unique settings to show something interesting on screen, such as the technocratic society of Arthetine or the tropical Tortoik Island, where you'll need to shrink yourself down in order to communicate with its bite-sized residents. This is an MMO, so it's expected that you can meet with any of your friends on the same server, but Lost Ark's fleshed out social features give you plenty of opportunities to make entirely new friends in public social hubs, in matchmaking activities such as dungeons, and even on the open seas. It's also great that you can join a guild, then work together and chip in for a special resource that benefits each member of that guild. Guild-on-guild sieges do exist, and it seems like the winner gets a major payoff. But there didn't seem to be any in action during the first week of Lost Ark's launch. As is the trend in other MMORPGs, Lost Ark is free to play, with a few caveats. For example, you can pay real money to buy royal crystals, which can then be traded for plain old crystals. Yes, they're 2 different things, which you can then trade in for extra character slots, instant revive items, potions, and other things that speed up the crafting, gathering, and NPC schmoozing systems for a limited time. Those paid advantages would be worrisome, but gear is automatically equalized in PvP, and the story content isn't overly challenging even if you don't spend any money, so it's not egregious. There's one spot where free-to-play mechanics do start to creep in on the fun, though. Between the exploration and questing, you can head home to your very own fortress stronghold, which is your base of operations. This is where you might, for instance, throw a party with up to 50 of your guildmates. You can construct and upgrade buildings, assign missions, craft goods, and entertain luxury merchants who stop by to do business every so often. But all of that takes resources and a lot of real-world time. It's possible to speed that up by spending crystals, which are hard to earn in-game but can be bought with real money. Granted, it's not essential to engage with your stronghold in order to enjoy the rest of what Lost Ark offers, but it's the one area where it feels like you have to spend money to get much out of it. Lost Ark takes a genuinely unique stab at both the MMORPG and isometric action RPG genres. It's expansive and deep, capable of scratching the itch for a new Diablo-like action RPG that is filled with other players to team up with if you choose to, or you can explore on your own just as well. The excellent combat system channels the best of its ARPG forebears, but it can eventually wear thin after you've slaughtered your way through enough lower-tier enemies. It doesn't help that the story can be cheesy due to awkward writing and acting as well. However, there's a lot to discover here, and at the end of the day, this is a world that's certainly worth your time to keep exploring, even if you never pay a cent for premium access. For more PC games, check out our reviews of Total War Warhammer 3 or Vampire Survivors, and for everything else, stick with IGN.